Hi guys, this is Stormouse03. This is The Evil Within, Akumu difficulty, chapter 15, and we have just gotten through with the first room with the enemies in this level, and we're moving on to this next section here. And so you just want to kind of use this middle part as cover and shoot these guys. There are 4 of them, 2 on each side. On each side there will be 1 guy with dynamite and 1 guy with a rifle. And if you get lucky, if you shoot the guy with dynamite, when he has dynamite out, he will blow up the guy with the rifle. So I ended up not having to shoot both of those dudes. I'm doing body shots right here, although I think if I shoot them in the head, that mask, this rifle will shoot through it. And I'm not doing that, I guess, because I was I was concerned about getting shot. And I wasn't too terribly concerned about conserving ammo either. But I believe that 1 shot in the head on these enemies will kill them, especially if you have your sniper rifle's damage upgraded like I do. So I think there's no reason to not shoot those guys in the head unless you are concerned that they are going to get off a shot at you before you can get off a shot at them, which sometimes happens. And so, you know, caution is sometimes warranted. And again, if you're not worried about ammo conservation, which you really shouldn't be, because at this point in the game, you know, if you've been following along kind of what I've been doing and upgrading things similarly, then you shouldn't really have a problem with ammunition at this point. You've only got 1 more fight to go, and if you've been saving up the way that I kind of recommended that you do in the previous videos, then this fight is going to go very quickly and very well. And so that suggestion was to save magnum ammo and upgrade the damage on the magnum if you have the resources to do so. And you should have the resources to do so if you've picked up all of the keys like we have. So my damage on my magnum is maxed out, and I have plenty of bullets saved up. You only need 3 per keeper if you have it maxed out, if you have your damage maxed out. You'll need 6 per keeper if your damage is not maxed out. And you'll need some amount in between if you have upgraded it partially but not fully. So that's kind of the statistics on the magnum ammo or magnum damage output for this section. And that's the strategy that I'm going to use. Sniper rifle ammunition will also kill them very quickly. If you've upgraded your explosive bolts quite a bit, that should probably do a lot of damage to them as well. If you don't have the amount of magnum ammo that I have right now, what I would recommend is follow the sort of first part of my strategy, which is to immobilize them with the shock bolts, and just keep doing that. Keep hitting them with shock bolts or freeze bolts, but shock bolts I like better because they're not as finicky with where you have to hit them with the shot. Sometimes with the freeze bolts, if you shoot it too far in front or behind them, it won't hit them. And so I would recommend shock bolts, but freeze bolts will work as well to immobilize these guys and make it so that you don't have to run around this area too much, because this area can get very claustrophobic very quickly. There are those little robots, saw blade things in the other room, and so you don't want to be running around too much here. And if you saved up for this spot like, you know, you should, or I would recommend that you do, you shouldn't have any problems here, because you'll see 3 bullets killed that guy, and 3 bullets killed that guy. And that is that fight done quickly, easily, no fuss, no muss. Didn't have to worry about it, and it went well. So using the shock bolts, you may not have needed to do that, but I did it just in case. I had plenty of trap parts to be able to build those, and they were effective in keeping the keepers back so that I wasn't in any danger of getting hit by them at all, ever, during that fight. So that's the strategy I would recommend there, guys. Again, if you don't have Magnum, use shock bolts and or freeze bolts to immobilize them, and keep immobilizing them and putting in the ammo that you have, you know, your sniper bullets, your explosive bolts, anything that's powerful and will put out a good damage output into them, you know, or whatever you've got left. You know, if you don't have very many bullets left, you got to use what you have. But immobilizing them, for me, is key so that you don't have to run between those rooms too much. So this section right here, there are a lot of traps, and you kind of, if you're like me, learn where they are by stepping in them a bunch of times. I died a lot of times here. So no deaths on the keeper fight, about 10 deaths on the traps in this little section right here where you have to stealth past the lights. And so if you get seen, it will just send you back to the beginning of the area. It won't kill you. So, you know, you don't want to get seen because that will keep you from progressing. But getting seen is not a fail. It's not a one-hit kill. So my strategy is just to kind of try to go as slow as I can. Sometimes you have to move to get out of the way of some of the lights, the spotlights. But if you're moving kind of slowly and you're crouching around, you won't worry about hitting some of these traps that are scattered around the area. And there are bear traps everywhere, so just be aware that there are bear traps everywhere. There are a lot of these little tripwire traps too. And if you aren't certain of the pattern of the lights, watch them like I'm doing right now. So I'm watching this one, and so now I know that I have room to move past this trap right here as soon as it goes by. And you don't have to disarm the trap, but I did, because why not? It's an extra trap part for New Game Plus. By the way, you're not going to need any more ammo throughout this section. You just won't need it. Because there are no more... Well, there is another enemy to fight, but you get a weapon to fight him, so you're not going to use any of the ammo and stuff that you have on you right now. In that section right there, I disarmed the bear trap, and then I judged that I would not have enough time to move up into the next little alcove, so I went back and then waited for the spotlight to make another pass before I moved on through. This area right here should be the same as it was before. Just going through these little wire trap things that, ugh, my gosh, are so irritating. This part right here that I'm about to do, when on my first playthrough, killed me probably 15 or 20 times. I was just terrible at it. I kept hitting the sides of wires that I didn't mean to hit, and I couldn't, like, my brain was not able to do it for whatever reason. It looks really easy, and it is really easy. It's not that hard, but for whatever reason, when I first played the game, I just couldn't wrap my head around the mechanics of that. So, in any case, I did it enough times that I knew what I was doing during that section and didn't have to worry. And when you're running away from the little spiky thing, you just want to make sure that you run in the pattern that I did. I believe it was left, right, middle. And we're going to have one last opportunity to upgrade or not even upgrade. The upgrade chair is gone. One last opportunity to save. And so why not make a new save here? so that, you know, in case you want to do the ending boss fight again, you don't have to play through the rest of the game. I don't know. So, here we go. On to the final boss section. And I enjoyed the final boss. You know, it wasn't anything all that innovative. I would say it's not innovative at all. It's pretty standard final boss sequence. It's not difficult, in my opinion, although, you know, it is a little bit trickier on this difficulty than it is on survival, because the final boss moves a little bit faster and I think takes a little bit more damage, but other than that, it's not difficult. The difficult part of this chapter is the stuff that you've done up until now. It's that first room with all of those haunted and the guy with rockets and the chainsaw, and the second room with the snipers and the dynamite tossing dudes, and the third room with the two keepers. Those are the parts of this that are difficult. This part, I don't think is all that difficult. And, you know, some people will think that's a bad thing, some people will think that's a good thing. I have kind of mixed opinions. I do like, ultimately what I want is for the final boss to feel climactic, and I think in terms of story and enemy design, this accomplishes that. It does feel climactic, it does feel like the end of the game, and it does feel like the culmination of the story elements and all of that good stuff. So, to me, I was satisfied with this final sequence, but I can understand where other people might take issue with it, because some people just really want that final thing that you do in the game to be the most challenging thing that you do in the game, and I think that that's a fair opinion. That is definitely a fair assessment. For me, the fact that it is the hardest thing in the game is not as important to me as the ultimate feel of it being a pinnacle for the story, right? So, it worked for me. I can see why it might not work for others. But you want to just, for this section right here, it's pretty much exactly like it was before. You just want to run and dodge and not get caught on corners and stuff, or this guy will grab you, so you do want to be running and not getting caught on things, but that isn't very difficult to do. And then you're gonna have this sequence. So I loved this. Actually, I can see where people would think that this is kind of a cop-out, a little gimme section, a kind of Call of Duty action sequence, but I actually liked it, and I think it works really well. And for reasons that I described in the last video, where I went on a really long tangent about how I really think that this kind of shows an aspect of the story through the gameplay, the fact that this vehicle with the 50 cal on it turns up at this moment, I think is a story convention. Actually, I think that this is showing that by the end of this game, Sebastian has learned to master this world in the way that Ruvik had learned to master this world. He's able to call upon aspects of the world that have shown up before, because this vehicle showed up back in chapter 12, and he's able to think, like, what do I need right now? I need a weapon. And this moment right here is another example. We had a sadist with a rocket launcher that we fought just moments ago, and right now we're caught on a wall. We can't do anything. There is a big enemy. What do we need? We need a rocket launcher, and here it is. And so, to me, it shows that Sebastian is learning to master this environment. He's learning to master this STEM environment. He's learning to master the machine, and to be able to know that he has influence over this world, just like Ruvik has influence over this world. And he can say, I need a rocket launcher right now, and the rocket launcher is available. And, that might be me reading too much into it, but I really do feel like that's what they were going for here, that what you're doing throughout this game is learning where you are and how to control this world. And at the end, Sebastian is successful enough in learning to control the world to be able to call upon the resources that he needs. And so you gotta shoot that guy in the head. I was talking and I didn't mention that, but you need to shoot the guy in the head. If you shoot him in the torso and stuff, you just need to shoot as many rockets as you can. Try to lead it a little bit. And when you get that little red reticle, you need to shoot it in that, and that will kill him. Then you need to shoot him with your gun as fast as you possibly can right now, because it's very fast. It's way faster than it was on the other difficulties. But after you do that, the game is effectively over. So that is that fight, and that is the end of this game. And then you come up with your own decision about what happens in the story here, because I do not believe that Sebastian gets out. That is just my opinion, but I don't believe that he does. Because this right here does not look to me like he's out of the machine. This doesn't look real. And the fact that Ruvik is appearing right here just tells me that he's still in the machine right now. He hasn't unhooked himself, and this isn't really happening where he's gonna, rip out the brain that's attached in the machine and crush it. Just the symbolic nature of doing this, if he's doing this within the dream world, that may be enough to effectively kill Ruvik in the outside world, but I don't believe that this is any more real than anything else that we've done throughout this game. I think this is still in the machine, and that's my opinion. It could be real, it could just as easily not be that way, but this part right here where you're sort of opening your eyes, again kind of tells me that you were not out of that machine at that moment. And so whether or not he ended up ultimately getting out,
they're not going anywhere.
I'm not sure, because it looks like they may have moved their experiment from one location to another, and Kidman kind of leaves him there, and so he's able to wake up and get out when the police come and investigate this hospital, and that could be what's happening at the end. He also could still be hooked up to the machine, and I don't know that, but I think that it's an ambiguity that I think works for the purposes of the game. So here we are, 2 achievements unlocked. That is for beating it on Akumu and Nightmare, because I had not played it on Nightmare. You get a few rewards for finishing the game. The brass knuckles are a reward for finishing on the higher difficulty. And here are my final statistics, folks. And so that's what it was for me. I would say probably at least a third of those deaths are from traps, if not more. And then perfecting a few other sequences. I think I ended up with more deaths than I probably would have if I had just been playing it, because certain sections I wanted to really perfect because I was recording it. And so there were times when I kind of just sort of let myself die on purpose in order to reload checkpoints and things like that. So there it is. I think not too bad. And ultimately the point of doing the guide is that hopefully I was able to suffer through areas to figure out strategies that help you to not have to suffer through those areas quite as much. And so I'd love to hear your guys' stories about this mode. Let me know how many times you died, how you found the mode, if you found anything helpful from the guide. I would love to hear that kind of stuff. Ultimately, I really liked this game, and I really liked playing this mode and making this guide. I thought that overall, it wasn't a perfect game. There were definitely some little nitpicks that I had with it, but I had a very, very good time with this game, and I had a really good time specifically on this mode. I found it challenging, but for the most part very fair. So that is kind of what I'm looking for in a difficult mode, so that is fantastic. I appreciate everybody who is watching this series, and hopefully was able to at least be a little bit of help for you all. So thanks for watching, guys. I really enjoyed covering this game for you, and I will see you in the next project.